All right. Deontay Wilder pay-per-views, response to questions. People want to know why I've not reported on the Deontay Wilder pay-per-view numbers. And also we'll talk about a couple other things related to pay-per-view numbers out there in the UK in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, I want to say a special thank you to everybody on the Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting over on the Patreon. We got a new video that we just did yesterday. Make sure you check it out. Really good discussion. Also, make sure you come to the OG Boxing Talk live stream Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with myself, Blood Boxing, KQKC Boxing, Trap House Boxing, and Curtis Anderson. You also, sometimes we have some special guests that come by, other members of the community, very mature boxing conversation. I think that you will really appreciate it, provided that you're not trolling. Now, let's get into this. Deontay Wilder's pay-per-views. Last weekend, people came out and said, hey, it was 2,500 pay-per-view buys for Deontay Wilder. Now, we know that that is absolutely ridiculous. No major network, nobody picked that up other than some people that talked about where it came from, which was a forum on boxing scene, right? Even many of the most ridiculous guys that I come by the channel didn't waste their time talking about 2,500 pay-per-views, okay? Because that's absolutely ridiculous. There was more people that showed up to the fight than would pay and would fly to the fight than would be willing to watch it in their own living rooms for significantly less money. I'm not buying it, and I don't think anybody with common sense bought it. So I went out of my way because I do these pay-per-view numbers, right? I do the videos analyzing what they mean. It's one of the things, bit of a series that we do on here. So I reached out. I was talking to several friends that I have. I like to say this when I can, behind the scenes. Reached out to some people, and they informed me the numbers for Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz are just not out yet. And they're not going to be out until next week. Now, the people that tell me and I'm not going to say who they are. I'm going to protect my sources. You know how they do, sources. But in this case, I think it's fair to say sources. And unless you see some numbers come out this week to prove me wrong, hey man, it is what it is. But this guy who is a particularly prominent promoter who works with fighters in that area, I will say that he's a prominent promoter, said that the fight's not going to be taken, that the numbers aren't going to come out until next week. So we're just going to have to hold our breath and say, okay, what will the numbers be? Regardless, we do have some other pay-per-view numbers that have came out, but I want to talk about this whole idea about the importance of pay-per-view numbers to begin with. Pay-per-view numbers do let you know how much money a particular fighter made. I do not believe, however, that pay-per-view numbers, and this can be with Errol Spence Jr., it could be Canelo Alvarez, it could be Deontay Wilder, it could be Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, it does not matter to me. When I talk about pay-per-view numbers, 99 out of 100 times, it is to refute the claims of other people saying that a particular fighter is not popular because he doesn't do great numbers on pay-per-view. The fact of the matter is this: there are many popular boxers. Boxing may not be as popular as it was in the 1930s, 1950s, right? 1960s. But there are many boxers that most boxing fans know when you say them off the top of their head. People know who Vasily Lomachenko is. People know who Terrence Crawford is. People know who Tyson Fury is. People know many of these fighters. And many of these guys have never been on pay-per-view. That does not necessarily mean that they're not popular and they're not well known. To be, and I've had this debate with people, when somebody said, Deontay Wilder is the face of boxing, somebody else says Deontay Wilder is not the face of boxing. So they will say, no, Canelo Alvarez is the face of boxing. My personal argument is, and this is shout out to all my fellow my fellow Deontay Wilder fans, to all the Canelo fans, my belief is that the first face that people would think of, name that comes up if you think about the sport of boxing, is still Muhammad Ali. That's what I believe. Now, other people can have their own thought processes on that, or their own opinions on that. But I'm not going to say because Canelo Alvarez is not on pay-per-view, is not selling on pay-per-view, that he is not a known commodity, a popular known name in the sport of boxing. The fact is, Canelo Alvarez has not done a his last 3 or 4 fights, his last 3 fights at least, have not been on pay-per-view. There's no pay-per-view numbers released on him whatsoever. So if Canelo Alvarez is not fighting on pay-per-view, we do not know what his numbers are, and we all can agree that he is a popular fighter and a well-known fighter in the boxing world. And to casual fans that just have heard of the name of boxing, just have heard his name associated with boxing, no, it's just not fair to say because he's not on pay-per-view anymore that he's not well-known by boxing fans. Same thing even with Tyson Fury. I would not say that nobody knows Tyson Fury in the United States. The only reason that I would point out the fact that he only sold 3,000 tickets in Vegas is to say, look, don't act like he's the most popular, most well-known fighter in boxing. Don't act like he's better known than Deontay Wilder, because most of these conversations as it relates to Deontay Wilder, are, when I have them, are a response to people trying to put out this information claiming that nobody knows him. The fact of the matter is there were 2 million people that on Fox that watched a prelim to that fight, watch the shoulder programming connected to the fight. If 2 million people watch that, that means 2 million people at least know who he is, right? Because isn't that what we're saying? Nobody knows him. Well, why would it only be people that pay their money to qualify as somebody being known? And when you have something like Fox, right? And this is something that Black Fight Fan TV alluded to in his video. I'm going to just give my little take on this. Fox is definitely not in the pay-per-view business to the effect that it is supposed to be there to offset their budget. They are a much bigger channel, much more money than Showtime or HBO. What HBO would do is HBO, because boxing was pretty much their only sport, they would do pay-per-views and have their pay-per-views as a way to offset the budget, right? So if they only wanted to pay a fighter X amount of money, like Gennady Golovkin, they put his fight on pay-per-view because they can have the fight, right? Replay that fight the next week on Showtime and offset the cost associated with it, because the people that did pay-per-view pretty much paid the majority of that money of the fees for the fight. So that's why they had this thing called a break-even point. And even the break-even points that I hear, it's like, man, come on. You guys are making up 250,000 pay-per-view buys as their break-even point. What? I remember when they were paying more money to HBO fighters on pay-per-views and their break-even point was 75,000. How come the break-even point tripled? How'd the breaking point triple once it became a fight including Deontay Wilder? But anyway, the long story short of this is, I don't particularly care about the pay-per-view numbers. They're going to be what they're going to be. And I don't have any doubt that they're going to be strong pay-per-view numbers based on every indication that I've seen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter for Fox whether or not the pay-per-view does well or not. The fact of the matter is they kept 2 million people interested in continuing to watch the commercials and the ads that are playing after the NBA, or I think it might even been a baseball program, took place. They maintained, what you call watch time. If you have a YouTube channel, you understand this. Watch time, that's the business that Fox is in. Fox is in the business of keeping people on their channel, watching their shows longer, having more advertiser dollars being brought in by Fox. And when they have a program, when you have a big program, then you show another one, and those people continue to watch the next show. That's what's in it for Fox. What's in it for Deontay Wilder is the money, the championship, all that good stuff. And really, what should be in it for fans is that you get to see a great fight. The fact of the matter is Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz was an exciting fight. And there's no way people can get out of the way of that. That was it was a good back and forth for 6 rounds. It could have been, the rounds could have went either way. But at the end of it, you get what people claim they really want to see in the sport of boxing, which is a devastating knockout. So I just want to let people know why I haven't done a video about the pay-per-view numbers. It's because they're not out yet. And my sources tell me that they're going to come out not this week, but next week. And at the end of the day, we got what we wanted, which was an exciting fight. I hate that the only reason that I do these pay-per-view numbers is to try to battle these narratives that people put out there about how certain fighters don't sell and how great other fighters are. And it's fun for me to nerd out and look at the numbers, but we'll update you 100% for sure when those things come out. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.